Hamas leader calls for return of suicide bombers. In a controversial recent speech, Hamas leader Mashal, excuse me, called for a resurgence of martyrdom operations against Israel as the Gaza conflict entered its 10th month with over 40,000 Palestinian casualties. Speaking via video at a conference in Istanbul, Mashal he urged Palestinians to escalate their resistance, stating, "Today in the West Bank, we have seen some successful early signs of martyrdom operations. We want to go back to the martyrdom operations. This necessitates an all out conflict." He also appealed to the students worldwide to support the Palestinian cause. The speech drew sharp criticisms from other Arab journalists and people on social media who accused Mashal of promoting dangerous ideas from the safety of Qatar while endangering Palestinian lives. These statements came amid the ongoing hostilities following October 7th attack on Israel, which resulted in 1,200 dead Israeli deaths and numerous hostages. Um, so wait, let me pull this up. Can I do this or does Armin have to do it? Okay, here we go.
أن نفخر بالمقاومة.
Oh, so I guess in case people are listening, I'll read out what the subtitles are.
لا يكفي أن نفخر بالمقاومة.
It is not enough for us to be proud of the resistance.
ونرى الفيديوهات على شاشات التلفزيون.
Watch videos on TV and be full of praise for their heroism and sacrifice.
ونقول ما شاء الله. ما هذه العظمة؟ أي عطاء، أي بطولة. الفخر مطلوب.
Pride and appreciation are required.
الاعتزاز مطلوب. وأن ندعمهم ماليا مطلوب.
And supporting them financially is also required.
مطلوب لكن ذلك لا يكفي.
But these are not enough.
اليوم قبل الغد.
Today, not even tomorrow, we should make the decision
أن نأخذ قرار المشاركة الفعلية
to become practically engaged in the Al-Aqsa flood. Now, for those who aren't familiar or forgot, Al-Aqsa flood is the name of the operation of the October 7th attack. So he's saying today, not tomorrow, we should all become engaged in the Al-Aqsa flood.
في الطوفان من الموقع الجهادي.
In the practical jihadi and military sense. Okay, in case things were not clear enough, let's get all the way clear right here.
العسكري العملي. اليوم مطلوب.
Today in the West Bank, within the 1948 borders, and in the diaspora.
في الضفة وفي 48 وفي الشتات. مطلوب.
The escalation of this conflict is required.
التصعيد هذا الصراع. واليوم في الضفة الغربية.
Today in the West Bank.
وقد رأينا بداية.
We have seen some successful early signs of martyrdom operations.
موفقة. بعض البواكير في العمليات الاستشهادية. نريد العودة إلى العمليات.
We want to go back to the martyrdom operations.
الاستشهادية. هذه.
This necessitates an all-out conflict.
حالة لا يصلح لها إلا الصراع المفتوح. هم يقاتلوننا.
They are fighting us in an all-out conflict.
بصراع مفتوح ونحن نواجههم.
And we should face them with an all-out conflict.
بصراع مفتوح. نطلق العنان لكل أشكال.
We should unleash all forms or resistance. I think it was supposed to be all forms of resistance.
مقاومة وفي مقدمتها العمليات الاستشهادية. ننخرط فيها.
Oh wait, I missed one. First and foremost, the martyrdom operations.
ننخرط فيها. مواجهة مفتوحة. نجدد.
We should engage in these operations. We should have an all-out confrontation.
نجدد هذا الروح في الضفة.
We should reignite this spirit in the West Bank and in the 1948 borders.
غربية وأهلنا في 48 وإلا سينطبق.
Otherwise, Israel will fight us piece by piece.
علينا أن إسرائيل تتفرد بنا قطعة قطعة. الخيار المنطقي
The solution that is acceptable to one's logic and conscience
الذي يقبله العقل والضمير والمسؤولية التاريخية
and is in keeping with our historical responsibility and the Sharia
والشرع أن نفتح عليهم كل
is to unleash all the fighting fronts against them.
الجبهات. بعد أيام
In a few days, the academic year will start again at universities worldwide.
يعود الموسم الدراسي إلى حيويته في جامعات العالم. يا قادة الطلاب
I call upon the student leaders in our Arab and Islamic countries
في بلادنا العربية والإسلامية وفي ساحات الغرب
as well as in the East and in the West
والشرق نريد تجديد الحراك
to renew the student movement in the broadest scope
الطلاب على أوسع نطاق حتى يتوقف هذا العدوان
in order to stop this criminal aggression.
المجرم ولكم الفخر يا
You should be proud of yourselves,
شباب الأمة ويا أحرار العالم.
O youths of our nation and free people of the world. Okay, so that was the end.
It shows how much when the protests, the university protests that happened, that was a major, they considered it a major win. Like if you go look into their propaganda, when the protesters, especially in Europe and America, and students were coming out, they were saying that, they were showing that as a major sign of victory for their cause, because their understanding is that they would die, they're willing to die to make Israel look bad. That's the game that they're playing. They know that they don't have enough military power to pressure Israel, so they want the Israeli people to pressure their own government, and they want the international community to pressure Israel, and they do that by making as many Palestinian babies as possible for them to die. Specifically, they want to attack Israel and force Israel to come and defend itself, and when Israel come defend itself, to basically put the children in front of Israel so that they die, and then make the world turn against Israel that way. That is the plan. So when I call them a death cult, when he's asking for martyrdom, that's the plan. He wants Palestinians to die so that the world will feel sorry for them, so that the world turns on Israel. And basically, you can see all that plan in one speech. Yeah.
And we don't have to like articulate that based on implication of what they're saying. As a consequence of what they're saying. They say that. Like, yes. Here's the difference. Sometimes with some movements, you have to look at what they're saying and the implications of it and the consequences in some form, and then you can really get a clear vision of what is actually going on. No, here they just say it. This is why I encourage people to just go watch and listen to what people say in their own language, because oftentimes it is very different than what people say to English media. You get some real gems when people are speaking to themselves versus speaking to the outside world.
I mean, we see Yahya Sinwar also coming out and directly saying that our civilians dying is good for us. Like, and this is a strategy. This is why people were wondering why, when you built all these tunnels, you never built a single bomb shelter for Palestinians, because the Palestinian people are supposed to die. Like, this is when they say that we celebrate martyrdom, that means that we celebrate our people dying. They want their people to die, that this is part of a plan. And basically, if you listen to what he said here, he starts by saying that we need more martyrs. That basically means that we need more of us, our Palestinian people, to die. And then people, the students in other countries, they saw that the protests, for example, in the United States and Europe, was so much pressure on the politicians in these countries. One reason, for example, in the United States, you see Kamala Harris trying to figure out a balance between the progressives and the liberal Democrats, or the Jewish Democrats, is making it very difficult for her, is because of the student protest. The student protest put pressure on the Democratic Party in the United States. So this is, Hamas is looking like we don't have like advanced weapons, we don't have the military might to be able to attack Israel, but we have able to, by dying, by getting our own children killed, we have managed to start protests in Europe and United States in a way that the politicians of the most powerful countries in the world have to change some of their decisions based on what we have done. So they think, okay, that is the most level of influence that we could have. Like, if we don't have, I don't know, nuclear weapons, we do have Palestinian blood. We have Palestinian bloods, and this is why they encourage their women in Gaza to have a lot more children. And again, we have everything that we show you guys on this channel. They all go together. This is why we have so many videos of Palestinians' mothers saying that I bring more children so that they become martyrs, so that the world turns on Israel. Like, this is not us making this stuff up. This is what they say. This is what they say themselves. And this is why celebrating martyrdom is so dangerous, because this is what brings misery to the Palestinian people themselves. This is why when Muhammad Hijab comes in his videos and says, "We love death more than you love life," that completely goes hand in hand with the ideology that makes the strategy possible, right? And they come to the world when they say, like, "Oh my God, look at us. We're so, they're killing us." But then internally, they act like they're very lucky that they're dying. So to the world, they say that we are miserable, this is injustice, and you should be anti-Israeli because they're killing us. But then if you look at their own internal content, when they're talking to themselves, they act like they're the luckiest people in the whole world that they're dying, because there's no better thing, there's no better place to, there's no better honor than being a martyr, right? So you can see, but with social media, I'm hoping that more people can see the difference. And again, this is also such a betrayal of the Palestinian people, because it's hard. We're human. We want to, I mean, as much as we want to be able to sympathize with people, the Palestinian people are trying to making it very difficult, because it's hard. It's difficult. I mean, we want to be rational, but we're also emotional animals. If people don't value life themselves, it's hard. They make it very difficult for you to value their lives when they're showing that they don't value their own lives. When you are celebrating martyrdom, when you're celebrating your own children dying, when you are celebrating, when you see that this is the goal, death is the best thing that could happen to you, you make it, as a human, I need to see some shared values, or I need to be, if I want to sympathize with you, I need to be able to use some similarities between you and me, to use that as an anchor to build my sympathy for you on. How could I care about your life if you don't care about your life? And if more people see how much death is being celebrated in Gaza, then you're going to make it eventually very difficult for the world to sympathize with you. When you look at Israelis, it's easy to sympathize with them, because you see some similarities. You see them enjoying life. You see them wanting to live. You see them, having lifestyles that you could relate to. If you see Gazans and you cannot even relate to that, it's it, you could ask the world to sympathize with that, but you're becoming so distant in what you want, in your values, in your way of life. You're becoming so different from the rest of humanity that others will look at it and they might not even recognize what the hell they're looking at, and it will become more and more difficult to sympathize with that. I don't know. Should I even be saying that? Because that might have dangerous implications. What I'm saying, that I'm warning you about what we are getting to. Right? I want to sympathize, but you're doing your best to make it difficult. Does that make sense? Should I even be
No,
saying that? I don't know.
I understand what you're I understand what you're getting at. That it is You're saying that when you observe a culture that celebrates death and martyrdom and killing to this degree, you find it extremely difficult to relate to. And as a basic
Mhm.
function of your human psychology, you are not, this is a fact that you can observe among infants before they can even speak. They are less likely to want to protect what they are not familiar with. And so you're just acknowledging that fact both as something that a lot of people don't want to like admit, but it's also something that we have to be conscious of. Like, human beings have an inherent propensity for judgment and bias, an in-group bias specifically. That doesn't mean that we have license to just go wild with it. That means that we should be conscious of it and conscious of it in our lives and try to identify it when we might be falling into it. You can't help identify a potential issue or bias if you're not even aware that it exists, that you have that propensity, right?
Yes.
You know, and it's really tragic because I remember watching a lot of content from this group called the Center from Peace Communications, and they had a series called Whispered in Gaza. And this is a series that they did many years ago, way before October 7th. And it was supposed to be giving a platform to Gazans to talk about what their dissent from Hamas and their criticism of Hamas and what it and the other jihadi groups and what it has meant to their life and the tragedy that has wrought upon their life. Because one of Hamas's tactics is to seemingly present universal consensus. And in one of the videos that I was watching from Whispered in Gaza, it was this woman talking about how she had these dreams and she wanted to be a dancer and she wanted to be a musician, and how Hamas has not allowed her to do that and how they've destroyed musical instruments. And in this video, she talks about the effect that this has had on the culture. As a Gazan currently living there at the time that this was made, saying when we worship death, we treat each other like we are already dead. We treat each other like we are already dead, so there's not much left like of life that is worth living. If you live as if you are already dead, she basically says something along the lines of like, we live like zombies. And I thought that was like a really astute observation, and I can't imagine what it would be like to live with that feeling, to have that be the feeling that I articulate about my own society. I can't imagine what that would be like. But one thing I did want to point out before you go into, actually, maybe I should bring this after the videos. But there were people roasting this guy, calling for more martyrdom operations on Twitter. Should I do that after the video?
Yeah. I mean, if he's asking for martyrdom, I actually hope that he gets that wish at some point. Israel,
and that's what people on Arab Twitter were saying to him.
Yes. I mean, Israel hasn't been cooking some cutlet recently, and we have been addicted to Israeli cutlet, and I don't know what's happening right now.
I want to make a cutlet calendar. I swear to God,
yes,
we should make a cutlet calendar.
Yes, yeah. Anyways, let's listen to what she's saying. So this was Dee managed to also include this one. This is the head of Hamas's woman movement on TV, claims that after introducing Gazan children to jihad from infancy, all Palestinian girls want to sacrifice themselves in terror attacks against the Jews. She praises minor girls for this desire to sacrifice themselves. So listen to this. So she said, let me begin by saying that the word martyrdom seeker means that when a girl sets out, she has only one thing on her mind. To meet her Lord by means of her blood and her body parts. If anyone among the women of Hamas had the opportunity to be to be martyrdom seeker, not a single one of them would back
من
down.
الاستشهاديات والله ما وجدنا امرأة تتراجع. نجد أن كثير
Many women wish to be in the place of martyrdom seekers or together with them.
من النساء يتمنين أن يكن مقابل هذه الاستشهادية ومع هذه الاستشهادية. معظم رياض
Most kindergartens in Gaza belong to our sisters in Hamas. God, save these children. If you want to save Gaza, save these children from this ideology. Holy crap, man.
الأطفال تابعة لأخواتنا في حركة المقاومة الإسلامية.
This is why Israel is the best thing for the Palestinian people. The only hope you have for people in Gaza is for Israel to come liberate their children from this ideology, to basically come and take over the education system.
حماس فعندما نجد إن
Children are raised from a young age on this culture.
الأطفال منذ الصغر يتربين على هذه الثقافة. الله غير
Allah is our goal, jihad for the sake of Allah.
في سبيل الله.
From infancy, children are nurtured to love jihad, to want to meet Allah. When she says want to meet Allah, means to die. Meet Allah means basically become a martyr.
تنمى عند الأطفال منذ الطفولة حب الجهاد وحب لقاء الله وحب مقارعة
And to love fighting the enemy.
الأعداء. كل هذا منذ الطفولة. لا نتعجب.
It is no surprise that women set out to blow themselves up, leaving their children behind.
من أن تخرج المرأة وهي تاركة لأطفالها لأنه هي تعلم.
Because they know that even if they would raise their children,
بأن أطفالها إن ربتهم أصلا هي ستربيهم
they would raise them for these moments.
من أجل هذه اللحظات. ستربيهم
to be martyrdom seekers for the sake of Allah.
استشهاديين في سبيل.
By the way, guys, anybody who wants to come and say, well, Armin, this is not Islam, most Muslims do not want these things or do these things, this is completely in accordance with the Quran. Everything is saying is completely what you're supposed to want. If you read the Quran, you could say that this is completely based on Islamic teaching.
وإيش طبيعي
And she says, I am talking to you as a mother.
أنا أتحدث لكم كأم. يعني الأم
If a woman is given a choice to either go first or have her son go first,
سبحان الله يعني إن خيرت بين أن تتقدم أو يتقدم ابنها هي بالطبع.
Of course, she would offer both herself and her son. I didn't know what she's going to say. I was like, oh, is she going to say, okay, but if she had to choose, okay, so I was like, is she going to say that women don't want their sons to die? Because that would not be okay. You should want your sons to die as well. But she managed to say, like, yeah, of course, she wants both of it. She wants herself to die and her son to die as well. Okay, but if she had to choose,
هي ستقدم الاثنين ولكن لو خيرت بين نفسها وبين ابنها ستختار.
She would choose to be martyrdom seeker herself. Well, why would you want that? As a mother, you should want the best for your son. So you're basically choosing yourself to go to the best part of heaven instead of your son to go to the best part of heaven.
أن تكون هي الاستشهادية.
Anyways, that was absolute insanity. Only with religion, man. Only with religion. But yeah, go on. You wanted to show.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about how people are roasting this guy, calling for more suicide operations on Arabic speaking Twitter. Wait, there were some real bangers. People obviously pointing out, like, how dare you say this when you're sitting in a cushy luxury hotel in Qatar? Like, this is funny. This one was funny from a Lebanese journalist saying it appears that Khaled Mashal, who is calling for the resumption of suicide operations, feels shame and jealousy since Yahya Sinwar beat him to the sacrificing the Palestinian people and their cause. If you want suicide operations, start with yourself. You should be a role model and lead by example, not uttering slogans in your fancy hotel. Then one of them that really got me was people saying, like, this is horrible, this is pure extremism. Like, we as Arabic people, we should be having like an official Arab voice calling this movement a criminal organization. Um, and then the same person also said Hamas has declared mobilization in the West Bank. Our message to this is the weapons in weapons in the West Bank will not liberate Jerusalem. They will only turn the West Bank into a second Gaza. And then there was another person, a Saudi journalist, saying Hamas will destroy the Palestinian cause. With its stupidity and its operations as an agent of Iran, it has given the Zionists an excuse to ethnically cleanse and destroy Gaza. It is now giving them the same excuse in the West Bank. By calling for the suicide operation, Khaled Mashal will give the Zionists an excuse to get rid of the Arabs of 1948. Oh, Khaled Mashal, if you believe in suicide operations, start with your sons so that they can reach paradise before you do. And then he also say, stop Hamas and its stupid acts. Otherwise, you will be saying, may Allah have mercy on the Palestinian cause because it will have been destroyed. I thought that was very interesting.
Okay, I want to criticize it then, because it seemed like at the beginning there was an attempt to separate Hamas from the Palestinian cause. Okay, that was the attempt. That's my understanding, right? There is no Palestinian cause separate from Hamas. The Palestinian cause is Hamas. They call it the Palestinian cause, and the cause is to destroy the Palestinians for the sake of the destruction of Israel. There is no movement right now of the Palestinian cause that is set to liberate and bring peace and stability and prosperity to the Palestinian people. The only entity that is even getting close to trying to do that is Israel's government. Outside of Israel's government, there's nothing. Every other cause that is labeled as the Palestinian cause is basically Hamas's cause. If you want to show me what exists other than that. There
historically, that hasn't always been true. You're just saying now.
Yeah, it was a PLO before. Yeah, I'm talking about now. But even back then, it was a pan-Arab. It's an Islamist movement right now. Before, it was a pan-Arabist terrorist movement. Now it was a pan-Arabist terrorist movement, and it's now an Islamist terrorist movement. But not any of them was both motivated by anti-Jewish hatred. Both decided to not prioritize what would be best for the Palestinian people. Both prioritize just basically being anti-Jewish. Just basically not even if it made sense for them to accept deals with the Jews to have their own land and the Jews to have their land, basically having in Israel and Palestine. Both decided that no to Israel, no to a land for the Jews, even if it comes at a cost to the Arabs in that region. That's what they both decided. One of them from a more secular perspective, a pan-Arabist ethnic movement, and the second one from more of a religious Islamic perspective.
So let's go to all the super chats we got this segment. Yeah. So GJ sent a super chat, I think in regards to the last segment, saying also in the Netherlands news a day ago, protests contra statue of 17th century Dutch Gold Age hero Jan Peterson Cohen. Yes, a white war hero named Koen. Haha, must be taken down. He committed genocide. Okay, so you are saying that there's protesting against a statue. Okay. Sergeant gave a super chat saying Hamas lost militarily but won the propaganda war. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, a little bit, okay? A little bit, but we should be careful not to exaggerate that, okay? For example, like if you look at America, it's easy to look at the protests in the universities and think now Americans have turned against Israel. So there is a setback. There has been a setback. The support for Israel has dropped, but the majority of Americans still support Israel. So it's true that they have had some wins, but let's not make it seem like they have completely destroyed the pro-Israeli position. So there has been
Insane.
some
That's
blows.
not at all what the
Yes.
statistics show. It's not at all
Yeah,
what the statistics show.
but it is a win for them, to be honest. Like, it is a win. It's not as big of a win as people think, but it has been a win because
And I wouldn't
the
even give the
support
credit
has
to
dropped.
Hamas. I would give the credit to the Islamic Republic, frankly.
Well, I mean, the Islamic Republic through Hamas. I mean, to be honest, we don't exactly know how much the October 7th attack. We know, okay, so the October 7th attack was supported by the Islamic Republic when it comes to financial support and
And
when it
planning.
comes to military support. But we don't exactly know how much of it was planned by the Islamic Republic. It is possible that it was not directly planned by the Islamic Republic. However, the Islamic Republic is trying to take credit for it anyways in some circles and try to separate itself from it in some other circles, depending on
Yeah, I'm
who
like,
says
they're
talking.
talking about taking credit for it.
Yeah, but that taking credit for it could potentially be because they didn't want to take revenge, because they were too scared of taking revenge, so they were trying to act as if they already took their revenge on October 7th. So we don't know the actual motivations between claiming that Zahedi was involved in the planning of October 7th. We don't know that exactly. It's both of them are possible.
A gave a super chat. Thank you, A. Saying the protests are a victory for them because they are part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They have American kids now advocating to dismantle the U.S. at Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine this week. Okay, this is another thing where it has gotten a lot of media attention because it is happening at prominent elite universities, and it's very shocking, and people are doing a lot of insane, shocking, criminal behavior, violent behavior, illegal behavior against Title IX, for example. Or is it Title X? Anyways, that being said, again, when you look at the actual statistics of this, there have been studies about where these encampments and protests have occurred across the nation, what extent they were just protests, and to what extent they blossomed into uh, encampments, and then to what extent it had to be followed by arrests and blah blah blah. People have already run the numbers on what happened in the previous school year. This is largely a symptom of just what is happening in our elite universities. This is a symptom of a sickness of the elite. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Well, I do know a bit of what's going on, but it it is a phenomenon that is largely relegated to our most elite institutions because they have an issue with like mental sickness, self-hatred. It's a whole thing. We can unpack that later, but I want to just put that into perspective for people. It is useful. It is extremely useful for our ideological enemies, for the adversaries of our nation. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but we do need to also put it into perspective that this is a huge, excuse me, a small minority of what is occurring in American universities.
But a loud minority that is influential, especially given that, for example, the elections in the United States is so close, right? Then the 1% could have, even if you're 1%, if you have 1% influence, that could be basically the difference between who becomes president. So you are a minority, but if it right now the it's neck and neck between, for example, Kamala Harris and Trump. So that, yeah, the crazy progressives, anti-Israeli, pro-Hamas people, if they could move the needle by 1%, they might be able to make take the presidency away from the Democrats if the Democrats don't come and endorse their positions. So you can see how even with being a minority, you could still be, the king or queen makers, right? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gnome just became a new member. Oh my god, that's amazing. Thank you, Gnome. Welcome to Satan's Minions, which is a great reminder to everyone that a great way to support the show, because Atheist Republic is a team that is much larger than just me and Armin. And we do many things besides this channel. We have one of the most influential atheist channels in the Persian language. Don't you forget it. You can support all that work. One of the most amazing ways to do this is by becoming a member on YouTube. So, link in the description below, hit the join button and become a member. In fact, I would just like to celebrate. I was running the analytics because, Armin talks about doing defense and offense. And when we're doing offense, we're going to the heart of the Islamic Republic. Okay, bro? And that's what we have our Persian channel for. We had over 4 million views on our Persian channel last year. Talk about impact. That's the kind of impact you guys are supporting when you're supporting Atheist Republic.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So Bose gave another super chat saying pro-Hamas chaos comes from Russia, IRGC, and their funding. Yes. Yeah. And we know that they are funding groups that are adversaries to our nation within our nation. And we know that they are using influence campaigns and disinformation campaigns to amplify and organize the chaos on some of these college protests. We have evidence. So John, and also just national security advisors, just like openly talking about this now. And we're like, oh, so we just openly admit that now. Okay, cool. John gave a super chat. Thank you, John, saying loser Mashal left his followers behind in Syria as they died from Assad and Hezbollah. Then they kissed the ring of Khamenei. Even by Islamist standards, he sucks. I'm a fan of just calling these people losers. Like, but let's just openly mock these people. It instead of giving them all this power by being fearful, fear is actually giving over a lot of power to someone. We should just be mocking them as losers. Like the
Wasn't
Taliban.
he the one that wasn't he the guy that was a little bit opposed to getting closer to Islamic Republic? And Yahya Sinwar was the one that wanted to get closer. I thought there was an internal disagreement within Hamas over this. I'm gonna look this up. Khaled Mashal, a prominent leader, had so he had a complex relationship with the Islamic Republic. It's true. Yeah, this is the guy from the Hamas leaders. Most of Hamas leaders want to get closer to the Islamic Republic. This guy is the one that is actually a little bit skeptical regarding the relationship between Hamas and the Islamic Republic. He had an up and down. He had a history of, even right now after Ismail Haniyeh died. I think they were considering him making the next leader, and then Yahya Sinwar came out and said, like, we need somebody that is actually more pro-Islamic Republic for this position, if I remember this correctly.
Let's bring back the terminology we used to use in American politics, where we just call someone a pancake, like a flip-flopper. Let's bring that back.
Yeah.
Flying Robot Duck gave a super chat saying, how can the Palestinian culture change? Well, that's going to take the project of generations. A lot of de-radicalization, not allowing Hamas to be in charge of UNRWA schools, for example. That'd be a good step. Do you have any opinions on this, Armin?
How can the Palestinian culture change? Well, I'll tell you how. Okay, we need people to beg Israel to not leave Gaza, to keep a hold on the Philadelphia corridor, to make sure that it's not the Philadelphia corridor is not under the control of Egypt, for Israel to stop using these international humanitarian organizations to come out and distribute food and water and medicine, for Israel itself to take full charge of that, to get all of the people from Gaza to come to southern Gaza and basically block that entire area for only Hamas to leave here, and for them to stop, not do war in the north of Gaza, but basically cut all electricity, water, and food from them. So eventually they just come out of the ground themselves, because they need to eat and drink at some point. and they basically cleanse all of North Gaza and basically keep coming down and doing that all the way down, and basically cleanse all of Gaza from Hamas's military operations that way, and also to make sure that all the corridors, including the Philadelphia corridor, is closed off so that no weaponry or funds or anything else gets into Gaza unless Israel can see and manage it. Once you have completely demilitarized Hamas, then you have to work with Gulf Arab countries to come up with an international coalition for them to, with the direct supervision of Israel, to rebuild Gaza, and for them to, but under the direct control of Israel, especially the education system has to be completely dictated by what Israel decides, that is in the education system. Any form of brainwashing of children, the media, also the media and the education system has to be completely under the control of Israel. Has to be approved. It could be under the control of Saudi Arabia, but it has to be approved by Israel, right? What goes into the media and what goes into the education system of Gaza. And every parent that has been shown to be radicalizing their children at home should be separated from their children, if there's any proof that they are being radicalized at home. And this has to be done over, and also the Gaza has to be rebuilt. We need to bring back work visas for these people in Gaza, so try to improve economic prosperity in Gaza, so that the generations to come actually have something to look forward to, a life that they could look forward to. We have to, if you want people to stop focusing on the afterlife, you have to actually give them a life that they could look forward to. And this, if you manage to do this, it will take 2 or 3 generations after that where you will have a population that is de-radicalized. And also, I do think that to be able to do that, Israel has to start doing what it's doing in the West Bank, in Gaza. Basically, Israel has to start moving in settlements into Gaza. So with the excuse of monitoring and providing protections for those settlements, it could actually control militarily, keep an eye over all of Gaza. And basically, these settlements, the people from Gaza that eventually are de-radicalized, like the next, not this generation, I don't think it could do anything about it. But the generations to come of Gazans, the ones who are de-radicalized, the children, or at least the grandchildren of the people who are living today, they could slowly be given, the ones that have been proven to be contributing members of society, for them to move from the part of Gaza that doesn't have Israeli settlement to the parts of Gaza that has Israeli settlements. They could be first provide them with residentship, and after a period of time, the de-radicalized Gazans that are contributing members of society could be given Israeli citizenship. And this is a very long multi-generational plan that has to be dealt with like that. This is what I think. This is how it happens.
A gave another super chat saying, heartbreaking how some people think that it's just fine to sacrifice the Palestinians for the Ummah. Islamists are the number one threat to Palestinians. Oh my God, man, I swear to God, there's sometimes I'm like, I don't know if there can be anything more dehumanizing to this group of people than how they are treated within the Islamic context. It is so sad. It is so sad. We've covered stories on the channel of imams in the US like breaking down crying basically because of how they wish that they were in Gaza dying for the sake of Allah. Like, if you really think that this is the highest thing that an entire group of people can achieve, like, so sad. Um GJ gave a super chat saying, Ion Hersey Ali always says Orthodox Islam invests everything in the afterlife and horrifyingly little in this life. Women are just baby makers. Yeah, and this is why I have a suspicion towards any ideology that puts such a huge emphasis on the afterlife. It's really, really dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. It really teaches you to completely shift your priorities away from what you actually have control over, which is what you do in this life and over your own mind. GJ gave another super chat saying, is Reliance of the Traveler not one of the best, most easy to read and official books to look up and understand Islamic doctrines without taqiyya. Have you read
So
this
the
book,
reliance
Armin?
of
I
the
haven't.
yeah, okay. So it's the most popular source of understanding of Islamic teachings among Muslims. However, to be able to the if you're trying to be if you're trying to understand which ones are approved, you have to look at the whether or not they're considered sahih or not, right? So if you are trying to be more, I don't know, academic about it, technically the books that will are the main source of authentic Islamic hadith is Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. But you are right, the Reliance of the Traveler is the collection of hadith that has made it easy, accessible to Muslims to be able to read about Sharia and what Sharia teaches, and that's why this book is very popular among Muslims. And it's a good way for other people to also understand what Islamic teachings are about, because the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim do not make it easy for you to just go through it, but this book makes it easy for you to go through it. Yes.
Okay, another super chat. John is saying, right on, Susie. What's up with some of the college youth these days? The behavior resembles rage induced impotent types. The resentment is disturbing. I believe that this comes from I mean, a lot of people talk about like guilt too much, but I think part of it is influenced by an understanding that they are among the most privileged people in the entire world, and that privilege is something worthy of hatred and resentment. So they have a psychological incentive to cosplay and LARP as victims, which is why we have people in the middle of Colombia demanding humanitarian aid because they worship victimhood, because victimhood is equated with righteousness in their view of the world, and acknowledgement of their own elite status is psychologically threatening in that sense. And also, I think it's a simple function of young people like to do exciting, rebellious things. Um, it's literally a natural part of our moral development as a species. You can observe this throughout time. It's a well observed psychological phenomenon. Um, so part of it is literally just age appropriate. um, but it can come out in a pretty unhelpful way. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's so much deeper that you can dig into that, but that's kind of some surface level observations from myself. Also, as someone who used to be a militant leftist wannabe revolutionary LARPer when I was this age, I can speak from experience. Um, Sergeant gave respect Ham for honest about their gods. I'm not sure what
I
this
think it
means.
means I think he's saying respect Hamas for being honest about their gods.
I quite like actual ham. Ham is my god. I'm being stupid. GJ gave another super chat saying, okay, in general, guesstimating the AR movement has over 3 million subs, members, adherents across the laundry list of platforms on which AR is active. That makes Atheist Republic bigger than 33% of sovereign nations. Well, unfortunately, our largest platform, Facebook, where we had over 2.3 million people, got nuked off the face of the earth. So that hit our numbers in terms of being larger than sovereign nations a bit. It hurt a bit. It left a mark. It left a dent.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is actually a good reminder that we would still like to try to get our Facebook page back. And I have been struggling to get our Facebook page back. So if you or anyone you know works at Facebook or maybe one of the companies that they contract to do their moderation, please reach out to me at Susanna@atheistrepublic.com. That is SUSANNA at atheistrepublic.com. We legitimately would very much like people's help in fixing this. It's a constant uphill battle. And it's so annoying that the only way to get anything fixed at Facebook is to literally just know someone on the inside. And they do that on purpose.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.